Not always does the best win, and if you still believe that life rewards the fairest, the noblest, the most sacrificed, you are living in a fairy tale that the system wrote to keep you still. To you, and to all those who, like you, still believe that merit is a direct ladder to success. Do you want to know the truth? Most of those who are at the top today did not get there by their kindness, nor by their effort, nor by their intact morals. They got there because they understood one thing that you still do not accept. This world doesn't work with justice, it works with power. And that hurts. It hurts because you spent half your life believing that if you did the right thing, if you were loyal, if you worked hard, eventually someone would reward you. But no. What you did was get yourself into a golden cage, decorated with pretty words like ethics, discipline, and honesty, while outside the real players, those who understand how the board moves, made their moves without asking for permission. And they won. Does it sound familiar? You see mediocres in high positions. You see corrupt people in command. You see manipulators receiving applause. And you, with your righteousness, looking on from the stands while you applaud the system that ignores you. And do you know why that happens? Because you confused kindness with strategy. Because you thought that being a good person was enough, and you forgot to learn how power works. Friedrich Nietzsche saw it clearly more than a century ago. We are not made for blind obedience or for constant sacrifice without purpose. We are made to conquer, to assert our will, to stop following rules imposed by a morality that only benefits those in command. Power, for Nietzsche, is not evil. It is necessity. It is life. And whoever does not understand it falls behind. Have you ever wondered why those who follow all the rules rarely change the world? Because the rules were designed to keep you controlled, to keep you from thinking too much, from questioning, to make you obey. While you wonder if you're doing the right thing, others are already 20 steps ahead, making decisions, shaping the world to their liking. Not because they are better, but because they stopped asking for permission. Here is the root of the problem. They taught you to fear power. They told you that ambition was bad, that the ego should be crushed, that the desire to stand out was arrogance. And you believed it. You accepted it as moral truth, without realizing that that morality was built to keep you docile. Traditional morality is a cage disguised as virtue. And you are still inside. Meanwhile, the real players break those chains without remorse, not because they are evil, but because they understood something essential. To advance in a competitive world, it is not enough to be good. You must be smart. You must know when to speak and when to be silent, when to advance and when to destroy, and yes, destroy. Because sometimes to build something of your own, you must break what binds us. Nietzsche did not admire the obedient. He admired the one who created his own rules, the Übermensch, that human being who is not led by the crowd, who does not live to fit in, who is not afraid to stand out. The one who does not seek approval, but authenticity. The one who does not adapt to the world, but who challenges it. And here comes the part that is uncomfortable. That kind of person is not always the most loved, nor the most understood. Sometimes he is rejected, hated, attacked, because his very presence is uncomfortable, because when someone walks with confidence, the insecure tremble. Because when someone shines with their own light, others feel that their darkness becomes evident. But that rejection is part of the path. If you do not bother anyone, it is because you have not yet said anything important. If everyone applauds you, it is because you have not challenged anyone. Real success does not come from pleasing. It comes from impacting, from making people uncomfortable, from breaking structures, from building something so authentic that the world has no choice but to look. And that is not achieved by being simply good. It is achieved by understanding how power moves, learning to play, without losing your essence, yes, but ceasing to be naive. Because naivety is a luxury that this world does not forgive. Ask yourself, how many opportunities have you lost for fear of seeming arrogant? How many times have you held back your ambition to not make others uncomfortable? How many times have you given space to someone less capable just because they had more presence, more contacts, or more malice? That is not humility. It is surrender. Competition is not a choice. It is a fact. And if you do not compete, you do not survive. And I do not mean competing with hatred, with resentment, with blind destruction. I speak of competing with strategy, with vision, with intelligence, of understanding the board and moving your pieces with intention. Because if you do not play, someone will play with you. Look around. Observe well. Most successful people are not where they are because they are the brightest. They are there because they understood how the game works, because they allied when they had to, betrayed when necessary, remained silent when it was convenient, and spoke when they knew their voice would be a weapon. And no, it is not cynicism. It is realism. Success is not for the pure of heart who wait for divine justice. It is for those who know when to act, how to move, and when to challenge the rules that others dare not touch. Do you want to live a mediocre life? Keep waiting for kindness to open doors for you. Do you really want to move forward? Learn to use power, not to destroy, but to build yourself, to forge your own path without depending on anyone's validation. Because here goes a brutal truth. Validation is a drug. The more you seek it, the more you stray from yourself. Every applause you need chains you. Every opinion that affects you distances you from your purpose. And while you're dying to be accepted, others are quietly building their empire. Do you want to be free? Stop living to please. Stop acting according to what others expect from you. Create your own rules. Be true to your vision, even if it makes others uncomfortable. Because real success, which does not depend on applause or appearances, is only achieved when you stop living in fear. Imposed morality is a prison. It tells you to be obedient, not to question, to conform. But tell me, how many obedient people have made history? How many submissive people have changed the world? History is written by those who dared, by those who challenged, by those who refused to live under the rules of others. Do you want to be one of them? Then stop waiting. Stop asking for permission. Choose discomfort. Choose authenticity. Choose power. But not the power that crushes, not the one that corrupts. I speak of the internal power, the one that is born when you know who you are and stop asking the world to confirm it. The one that does not need to prove anything because it is sufficient in itself. That is the power that Nietzsche admired, the one that liberates, the one that transforms, the one that makes you the owner of your destiny. And it is not easy. It will not be. Because the stronger you become, the more resistance you will encounter. Because the weak hate the strong. Because the conformists fear those who dare. But if you endure that pressure, if you withstand the judgment, if you continue despite the noise, you will become unstoppable. So the question is not whether you want to be successful. Everyone does. The real question is, are you willing to stop being naive? Are you willing to learn how power moves, to use it without losing your essence, To stop being a spectator and become a protagonist? Because success is not given. It is taken, it is not begged, it is built, it is not inherited, it is forged. And you have been waiting too long. It is time to move. It is time to act. It is time to stop being good and start being strong. Truly strong. Strong like the one who no longer needs permission, like the one who no longer seeks approval, like the one who simply decides to win. In his own way, with his vision, with his power. And here is where another concept comes into play that almost no one dares to face head-on. Emotional manipulation. Yes, that which you fear so much, that you detest in others, but ignore when it happens to you. Because society not only taught you to obey, it also trained you to feel guilty every time you desire something different. They programmed you to feel ashamed if you dare to want power, if you decide to play strategically, if you choose not to be the martyr. They taught you that ambition is a flaw, that the ego is an enemy, that standing out is a betrayal, and you swallowed that poison with a smile. Every time you postpone your decisions for fear of seeming selfish, you are under that manipulation. Every time you choose the safe path, because the risky one would make you look like someone too ambitious, you are being directed. Not by a visible tyrant, not by a boss, by something much more subtle and more dangerous. Collective conditioning. A network of ideas disguised as morality that locks you in an invisible loop. And do you know the most ironic thing? That many of those who told you to be humble, not to stand out, not to be too much, were precisely the ones who used that narrative to keep you below. Because the moment you dare to question all that, at that moment you start to be a threat, and threats are not tolerated, they are silenced. Do you realize the game? They told you that being strong was being cruel, that having power was being corrupt, that using your voice was arrogance. But what they were really doing was deactivating you, taking the edge off your will, turning you into someone manageable. Because someone who desires nothing, who fights for nothing, who settles for just enough, is perfect for the system. Doesn't bother, doesn't demand, doesn't transform, just obeys. And while you continue with that weight on you, trying to fit into a mold that was never yours, there are others who, without guilt, without shame, without asking for forgiveness, are building empires on the remnants of your doubts. They are ascending silently while you debate between what you want and what you think you should want. But here goes something that no one dares to tell you. You do not have to feel guilty for wanting power. You are not bad for wanting more. You are not less spiritual, nor less human, nor less noble for wanting to grow, to lead, to dominate your environment. Or do you think it is natural to live in fear, waiting for crumbs, repeating mantras about humility while you consume yourself inside? Nature does not reward those who wait. It rewards those who act, those who adapt, those who push. The lion does not ask for permission to hunt. The tree does not apologize for growing taller than the others. And you, with all your awareness, your history, your intelligence, are you going to keep hiding out of fear of being too much? But of course, this is not only about ambition. It is about identity. Because every time you repress your desire for power, you are burying a part of yourself. You are saying, I do not deserve to be stronger, I do not deserve to lead, I do not deserve to win. And that phrase, even though you do not say it out loud, becomes your truth. It installs itself in your nervous system, and from there, it starts to decide for you. Look at your life. Do it now. How many times did you make the right decision just because it would generate the least noise? How many times did you betray yourself in the name of harmony, of peace, of balance? And how much did that really cost you? Because they sold you the idea that giving up your strength made you more valuable. But what they did not tell you is that in that process, you were also giving up yourself. And here comes an even more dangerous idea: self-annihilation disguised as virtue. That toxic habit of minimizing yourself to not make others uncomfortable, of reducing your voice to not overshadow, of sacrificing your ideas to avoid conflict. You do it so often that you no longer notice. And the worst part is that you feel proud of doing it. As if that made you a better person, but no, it doesn't make you better. It makes you invisible. It makes you expendable. It makes you forgettable. And that is the greatest punishment someone with potential can receive: to be ignored. Not by others, but by oneself. So, what do you do with all this? What do you do when you realize that success is not about being good, but about being awake? Well, you do what those who survive have always done. You wake up. You do not become a monster. You do not stop feeling. You do not become a cold machine. What you do is stop lying to yourself. Stop pretending that you do not want what you do want. Stop disguising your dreams as prudence. And I tell you more, you need to feel hunger again. Real hunger. The kind that is not calmed by likes or applause or pats on the back. Hunger for purpose, for direction, for influence. Because those who are not hungry do not move. And those who do not move fall behind. We live in an era of overstimulation and existential emptiness. Everyone wants to be seen, but few really know who they are. Because we were taught to project, not to build. We were taught to seem, not to be. And that kills more dreams than failure. Because when you only live to maintain an image, everything else rots inside. True power is not the one that is shouted. It is the one that is felt. It is that brutal calm that someone has who knows their worth, who knows they can lose everything and rebuild from scratch, who does not need to prove their strength because they have already integrated it. That kind of power is not learned in books, nor is it inherited. It is earned, and it is earned by facing the truth head-on. And do you know what that truth is? That no one is going to come to save you. No one is going to reward you for your goodness. No one is going to recognize your inner struggle if you do not turn it into visible action. You can be the most integrous person in the world and still die forgotten. Because this world doesn't value what you keep quiet, it values what you do. So do. Act. Decide. Use the power you have. Not to dominate others, but to dominate yourself. To become the most awake, the sharpest, the freest version of yourself. You do not need to be perfect. You need to be real. You need to be strong. You need to remember that in this world it is not about asking for permission. It is about no longer needing it. Because once you stop asking for approval, you stop being a slave. And when you stop being a slave, there is nothing, absolutely nothing, that can prevent you from building the life you deserve. So yes, the path is lonely. Yes, there will be noise, criticism, resistance. But remember this: wolves are not afraid of noise. They walk among it. They live in it. And yet, they lead. The question is, are you going to keep waiting for the world to reward you for being good? Or are you going to become someone who understands the game and starts at last to play it? And if you have made it this far, there is something inside you that is already starting to break. Something that no longer fits into the mold they put you in. And that is good. Discomfort is the first symptom that you are waking up. But now you have to take one more step. You have to look at something that few want to see: the price of being aware. Because yes, opening your eyes has a cost, and it is not low. When you decide to stop being naive, you lose something that previously gave you peace. The excuse. You can no longer blame the system without doing anything. You can no longer complain about the game while refusing to learn its rules. You can no longer say, "Life is unfair," and continue sitting on your hands. Because once you understand how power works, you are compelled to do something with that knowledge. And that responsibility weighs. It is like being in a building on fire while everyone else is sleeping. You can stay silent, save yourself alone, or shout, "Wake up the others, face the consequences." But you can no longer pretend you did not see it. Because you saw it. Because now you know. Because if you are listening to this, you are no longer the same as you were a few minutes ago. And there is no going back. And here comes another concept that changes everything. The value of the shadow. Do you know it? It is that dark side that we all have, but that we have learned to hide, to deny, to repress. Nietzsche did not talk about eliminating the shadow. On the contrary, he talked about integrating it, about accepting it, about turning it into an ally. Because your shadow is not your enemy, it is your brute force, it is your contained rage, it is your inner fire. It is that part of you that doesn't tolerate mediocrity, that cannot stand injustice, that screams silently every time you betray yourself. But you have silenced it for so long that now it seems foreign to you. Dangerous. Unacceptable. And yet, that is where your power lies, in what you have denied, in what you were told was wrong, in what you hide for fear of not being accepted. Because your repressed ambition is unused creativity. Your repressed ego is stifled self-esteem. Your repressed rage is passion without channel. Everything you deny rots inside and ends up exploding or destroying you. Do you want to be strong? Start by embracing your shadow, by looking straight at what makes you uncomfortable and asking yourself, what is it trying to tell me? Because only when you recognize it can you direct it. Only when you integrate it can you turn it into fuel, not poison. And that is what those who understand power do. They do not deny it, they transform it. But wanting is not enough. You have to be willing to cross a line that many fear, social rejection. Because the one who dares to show their strength makes people uncomfortable. The one who does not apologize for their presence generates tension. And if you still need to be liked by everyone, prepare to live a small life. I tell you bluntly, you cannot be authentic and be accepted by everyone. It is impossible. You cannot create something great without someone hating it. You cannot make real decisions without someone criticizing you. So you better choose. Either you adapt to the herd and disappear among them, or you become a wolf with all that implies. And mind you, I am not talking about destroying just to destroy. I am not talking about trampling or becoming a tyrant. I am talking about leading your own life without apologizing for it. About moving with firmness, even when others tremble. About doing what you have to do even if they look at you strangely. Because if your freedom depends on the comfort of others, then it is not freedom. It is theater. And here comes a word that makes people even more uncomfortable. Sacrifice. But not the sacrifice they taught you, that of giving it all for others. I am talking about real sacrifice. The one that involves leaving behind your old version to build the new one. The one that demands breaking with what you are no longer, even if it hurts. The one that involves killing the idea of you that was built to please and birthing a more fierce, more free, more authentic identity. That is the price. And few want to pay it. Because it is much more comfortable to live from the complaint, from the victimization, from the hope that someday something external will change. But I repeat, the change does not come from outside. It comes from you. And it starts when you stop looking for reasons not to do and start looking for reasons to act. And if you think it is too late, you are wrong. Most people start living too late. Most awaken when they have already lost too much time, but that awakening is better than living asleep all your life. Because when you wake up, every minute counts. Every decision has weight. Every action adds up. And for the first time, you feel that you are in charge. Success is not an outcome. It is an internal position. It is that certainty that no matter what happens outside, you have direction, you have focus, you have fire, and you do not give it up for anything or anyone. And that type of person, that one who does not need everything to be okay to move forward, is the one who ends up winning. Because here comes the most brutal part of all. This world is not designed for you to win. It is designed for you to consume, to obey, to doubt yourself, to work for the dreams of others while yours rot on the waiting list. So, if you want to win, you are going to have to break the rules of the game. You are going to have to disconnect from the noise. You are going to have to stop living as you are supposed to live and start living as you decide. And that is a revolutionary act. But it is also a lonely act. Because not everyone will understand your transformation. Some will say that you changed, that you are no longer the same, that you became selfish, cold, arrogant. Let them talk. What they really want to say is, we can no longer control you. And that is exactly what you must be, uncontrollable. Because real strength is not in raising walls or shouting louder. It is in not needing anyone's approval to keep walking. It is in being able to look anyone in the eye, knowing that they do not define you, that they cannot give or take away anything that you do not decide to give. And when you reach that point, everything changes. You no longer compete with anyone. You no longer imitate. You no longer hide. You act, you decide, you build. Because you have become, at last, that which the system fears the most, a free human being. And a free human being is the most dangerous thing that can exist. And if being free makes you a danger, then congratulations. Because that is the true mark of someone who has awakened. You start to make others uncomfortable without even trying. Your very presence is a reminder for those who still sleep. And not because you preach, nor because you shout, nor because you impose your vision, but because you live with coherence, because you act without fear, because your very existence challenges the mediocrity that others have normalized. But let's talk about something deeper. Something that no one explained to you when you were a child, when they filled you with pretty phrases and false hopes. Success also requires killing parts of you. Not just the weak version, also that comfortable, friendly, even useful version, but obsolete. There are identities that served you for a time. They protected you. They helped you survive. But now they are holding you back. Now they are dead weight. And the biggest mistake is clinging to what has already fulfilled its cycle. Think of it this way. Every great leap in life requires a small death. Death of the character, of the mask, of that image of you that you built to not lose affections, to not feel rejection, to not face conflict. But if you want to cross to the other side, you have to leave behind the you that was accepted by everyone, because that you was not real. It was a reduced version, optimized to please. And this is where many people get stuck, in the attachment to their own image, in the fear of losing their place in the group. But that need to belong is a slow poison. It keeps you fitted but stuck. It keeps you surrounded but alone. Because no one can really know you if you only show what they want to see. So, do you want to belong, or do you want to be free? Because you rarely can have both. And that choice is not abstract. It is brutal. It is real. It means losing friends, leaving environments, provoking breakups. But it also means rediscovering yourself. And that is priceless. Look, the easy thing is to continue being who you were. The difficult thing is to be who you can become. The easy thing is to repeat your old stories. The difficult thing is to write a new one from scratch without knowing if it will work. But I assure you of something. Nothing hurts more than living a life that is no longer yours. And here goes an idea that few have the courage to look at. There is no success without betrayal, but not to others, to what you were, to what you promised when you did not know what you now know, to what you believed when you still lived in the dark. Because if today you are still faithful to your past ideas, despite having grown, then you are not loyal, you are cowardly. And it is not about changing on a whim, it is about evolving with consciousness, of understanding that what was once an absolute truth now may be a prison, and that having the courage to betray your old beliefs when they no longer represent you is an act of personal power. Not everyone achieves it. Some prefer to die being coherent with a lie than to live questioning everything. But those who advance, those who truly manage to leave a mark, have something in common. They allow themselves to break their certainties, their false ties, their comfortable excuses. They allow themselves to be emptied, to be filled again with something purer, more potent, more real. And you, if you are here, it is because you already feel it. What once served you no longer satisfies you. What once calmed you no longer fills you. You can no longer ignore the tension between who you were and who you could be. And that is the beginning. That discomfort is the threshold. Now, when you start to cross it, a new enemy will appear. Nostalgia. That voice that tells you, go back, you were calmer before. That temptation to return to the mold, to go back to the old version. And the most perverse thing of all is that sometimes it is right. Sometimes the pain of growing is so raw that you think maybe you should have continued being who you were, but do not fall for it. Because the tranquility you feel in the setback is not peace. It is anesthesia. And all anesthesia is temporary. So what do? You hold the discomfort. You go through it. You become an expert in inhabiting the uncertain. Because uncertainty is the language of those who are breaking limits. And the more comfortable you feel in the uncertain, the faster you advance. Because most people wait for guarantees, and those guarantees never come. Great movements are born in chaos. Great changes are built on doubt. And great leaders, the real ones, are those who know how to move without maps. And what comes next? The inevitable loneliness. But not the loneliness that hurts, but the one that cleanses. The one that separates the noise from the truth. The one that leaves you in front of the mirror without masks. And then, at last, you can start building something real. Because only when you are alone with yourself do you discover if you really trust yourself. Only there does the most important question appear. Can I sustain myself without applause? Can I advance without witnesses? Can I live without validation? And if the answer is yes, then there are no limits. Because at that moment, you understand that success is not out there, waiting for you as a reward. Success is a mirror. It reflects exactly what you are capable of sustaining inside. Do you want more power? Become stronger. Do you want more freedom? Become more responsible. Do you want more impact? Become more authentic. There are no shortcuts. There are no tricks. Only the brutal truth of becoming someone who does not need to ask permission to exist. And that someone is you. Not a new version, not an improved character, not a polished avatar. It is you, without the filters, without the lies, without the chains. And when you get there, when you finally stop trying to appear as something, the world will have no choice but to see what you really are. And that, I assure you, is the most powerful thing you can show. And if you have held on this far, it is not by chance. There is something inside you that is breaking, and at the same time, igniting. Because only those who are ready for the next level endure so much truth at once. You know it. You feel it. Something inside you can no longer be as before. But before this ends, I want to throw you one last question. It is not comfortable. It is not pretty. It is the question that marks the point of no return. Are you willing to become everything you know you can be, even if that means destroying everything you were until now? Because there is no jump without loss. There is no evolution without demolition. You are going to have to burn your comfort zone. You are going to have to disappoint some. You are going to have to walk alone in silence while everyone else continues dancing to the music of the herd. But that is where the magic happens, where doors open that you did not know existed, where you stop reacting and start creating. Because this is not a message of motivation. It is a warning. It is a wake-up call for those who are tired of living anesthetized, obeying rules they did not choose, and dreaming dreams that do not even belong to them. This video is not for the lukewarm. It is for those who are ready to stop being pieces and start being players. And now listen well. This is not about having answers. It is about having the courage to ask the right questions. To accept that if you want a different life, you cannot continue acting the same. And that the path to real power begins when you stop negotiating with your potential. Because your power is not in what you appear to be. It is in what you sustain when no one sees you. In what you choose when you could give up. In what you build while others only opine. So here is my proposal. Leave this video with a single mission. Silence the noise. Turn off the external voices and listen to what you have been ignoring for too long. The brutal voice of your authenticity. Let it hurt. Let it discomfort you. And then do what few dare to do. Act. Because action is the only way to make this transformation real. And now I want you to go down and comment one sentence. Just one. But one that has weight, that summarizes what has been ignited inside you. Comment. I no longer ask for permission. That way I will know that you have reached the end. That you are not one more. That something was activated. And if you want to continue exploring these topics from the rawest, from the deepest, subscribe. Because this has only just begun. Here we do not come to sweeten reality, we come to break it into 1,000 pieces. To build something truly worth it. See you in the next video. Or not. It depends on whether you are ready to look straight at what others continue to dodge. Until then, remember this. Not everyone is made to wake up. But those who do ignite fire where others only see ashes. And you are already burning. Turn off the video if you dare. I have already planted the seed. You decide whether it blooms or if you consume yourself.